Special meeting for the Plan Commission to order. Let the record reflect that is Thursday, May 27th, 2021 at 7 p.m. This is Chairman Garrett Gray speaking. At this time, I ask that anyone joining us remotely to please mute your phones. Thank you. For those wishing to follow along with the PowerPoint, you are encouraged to access the meeting through Tinley Park Television on YouTube. It is my understanding that some of our Plan Commission members and staff have checked in on the conference line, and we have some members here in the council chambers as well, so we can begin our meeting. Please note, throughout the meeting, we expect to have other individuals joining us via phone pertaining to specific agenda items. Since some of our members and petitioners will be attending remotely, I will quickly review our remote meeting protocol. This open meeting of the Village of Tinley Park is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Pritzker's Executive Order 2020-07 issued on March 16, 2020, which suspends the Open Meetings Act provisions relating to in-person attendance by members of a public body. The Open Meetings Act, OMA, requires public bodies to allow for public comment. Therefore, this meeting will include public comment via the established protocol for both remote and in-person attendance. Even if members of the public do not provide comment, participants are advised that people may be listening who do not provide comment, and those persons are not required to identify themselves. Please just remember to wait until I address you, and please keep your phones muted until I do address you, and when you unmute, please identify who is speaking. Thank you. At this time, if our Commission Secretary could please take the roll call.
Commissioner Manning.
Present.
Commissioner West. Commissioner Mosquito.
Present.
Commissioner Aitchison. Commissioner Gatto. Commissioner Vick.
Present.
Commissioner Gaskill.
Present.
Commissioner Gray.
Present. Okay, we have a quorum. We'll move to the minutes. I just want to state that tonight is a special meeting outside our regularly scheduled meetings. As we just had a meeting last week, staff did not have an opportunity to complete the minutes of the May 20th meeting for tonight's approval. Therefore, we'll review the meetings of that May 20th meeting on June 3rd, and tonight's meeting's minutes will be reviewed on June 17th. So with that said, we will move on to the first item on the agenda this evening, which is the approval of the multi-tenant remodel at 17111 to 17119 LaGrange Road. Please note there's an error in the agenda. This is not a public hearing. There was a workshop that was held on May 6, 2021. There's only a site plan and architectural approval for this project. Therefore, a public hearing is not required. This item is up for a vote this evening. With that said, Dan, please proceed with your presentation at this time on item 1.
Thanks, Chairman. As you said, we kind of went through in a lot of detail in the workshop. This is the approval time for you guys, though, so I will go through it, just kind of hit the main points and kind of what changed. This project, along with the following item, is the same developer. Similar projects, both dealing with a Starbucks drive-through, obviously, with this one being an existing site. So this is an image of the existing site. So the site is in Park Hills Town Center, which is anchored by Lou Malnati's, Frankie's, was previously Tribe's Ale House in there. There's a CVS pharmacy outlet. And this is at LaGrange Road and 171st Street. This was constructed in 2006, 2007, for the most part for the shopping center. And then with this bank building built in 2006. So this was built for American Chartered Bank, and it was American Chartered until 2016. Was converted to MB Financial when they were bought, when American Chartered was bought out, and then became Fifth Third after that, after another buyout. So it's kind of run through the gamut for banks. It's been primarily just used as a bank office for Fifth Third since the pandemic hit, and they closed, once they consolidated with MB Financial, they closed a bunch of locations, but they'll still kind of use them as bank office space, while they try and find future users. As part of the history on this lot, in 2015, the property was actually shrank, and most notably, the front parking lot was shrank when there was a taking through IDOT right away when LaGrange Road was expanded. And that resulted in a reduction of 4 parking stalls on the site, but also resulted in some other changes, in additional parking that was added to the site. The subject property is zone B3 PUD, and it's in that Park Hills Center planned unit development. So you can see this building pretty closely ties in with the architecture of that overall shopping center there. To the south is also zone B3, and it's the Great Escape, and there's also another B3 vacant outlot parcel there, as well as townhomes to the southeast of it. And this is the original approved site plan, and if you can kind of see that there's kind of a middle parking area, and that was removed, and kind of that parking lot consolidated to just have 2 rows of parking that's out there now, and that's what happened in 2015 with the right-of-way taking. The big comment coming up for this one in terms of the site plan and circulation, so obviously they're adding a drive-through, and that's where kind of most of our focus was, trying to make sure that works correctly out there, and then moving the dumpster enclosure. So they made some changes here, kind of retrofitted that existing bank property, but generally still functions as a drive-through out there, and the same kind of circulation you get with that drive-through. The main comment kind of coming out of it was, from a site plan perspective, was just maybe if they could fit a bike rack in there. It's not required by code, but I think they have homes being developed to the north of this in Orland Park, and generally trying to be bike friendly. We requested that, and they obliged and added one into the front of this, and into the front of the center. They also, in addition to the drive-through, have added a patio by the Starbucks as well for some outdoor dining. So they resolved that by adding the bike rack location. The landscaping here is pretty substantially getting upgraded in terms of the front landscaping, foundational landscaping. They removed 1 tree with the addition of that patio kind of into the end island area, or I believe they actually removed 2 trees in this, but they replaced those trees kind of on the back side of the building, and then also add in some additional landscaping there in the front. Architecturally, this was kind of the main point coming out of the Plan Commission meeting, was this front facade. This is their proposed kind of front facade there, so that front on the right side of the building was kind of all EFS, and they were proposing that to kind of give it a different look, a more commercial look, and then allow easier installation of signage. Also, with it being unknown if it's going to be 1 tenant or 2 tenants, that was really to help them kind of put signage up there and give it a different look than the rest of the building that Starbucks is in. We worked with them, and the petitioner went through and tried to put a brick border around that now. So now you can kind of see on both the left and right sides of that front facade, there's kind of a brick border, and then they added a little bit around it as well that they'll maintain there. So they kind of reduce that, frame it a little bit better than just having an entirely EFS area up there. And then on the south side, they're listed in the Plan Commission's recommendation and staff's as well, which is really, they had taken that south elevation and there was an EFS area there as well, but it looked kind of awkward and abruptly kind of ended into brick. But they're going to leave that as it is now, which I think is a good idea, and kind of keeps it looking at a high quality as it is now. So I think this was a good compromise to get us to a usable building and helps them, again, transition from a single-use bank to a multi-tenant commercial building. Signage, there's a ground sign that they're gonna be replacing out there pretty much as it is. Coming out of the meeting too, there was a preview menu board, that are typical of Starbucks locations that we wanted to add into this to kind of preemptively approve it. Because this isn't a public hearing, we couldn't really add it to this request. We are with the next one, but they would have to come back if they want to add the preview menu board here. Or we can discuss if that's something maybe we want to take on in terms of a code change. But that will need to come back in some form. So that's it for this site. Existing site, obviously single-use bank being converted to a Starbucks and multi-tenant property. So I'll give it back to you, Chairman.
Okay, thanks, Dan, for that presentation. At this time, we'll go to our commissioners for any comments or discussion for staff on this matter. And I'll go to Commissioner Lusciuto on the phone. Commissioner Lusciuto, are you there?
Yes, this is Commissioner Lusciuto. I don't have any comments.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Vick, any comments?
No, not really. I think everything looks good. I like the changes to this, to that front part there. It looks a lot better, I think, the way it sits now. So otherwise, nothing else.
Okay, excellent. Commissioner Manny?
Yeah, the same thing. No comments. It's just I'd like to see how they added the brick border around for the EFS, signage mounting. It looks good.
Excellent. Commissioner Gaskell?
No comment.
Okay, and I concur with what some of the commissioner already said, that I think the brick facade and minimizing that ethos looks very good. And kudos to adding the bike rack so quickly. We do appreciate that. And it looks like a very good business, a very good location. So that's all I have for my comments. Does the petitioner have anything to present or add on this item?
For the record, David Sasson on behalf of the petitioner. I'm the attorney for the project. We're very happy to be able to work out the EFS issue in a way that was going to work for our tenants. With changing the building from a one-tenant user to multi-tenant, we know that the coming tenants are going to want some identity, and we think this is a great compromise between the staff and our clients. So we're happy to proceed, excited, and thank you very much for all the time that the staff's taken with us to come here today with this kind of a resolution.
Okay, and we appreciate the spirit of working with the staff to come to a mutually agreeable conclusion. So thank you for your time, as always.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's no further discussion on this item from the commission, may I have a motion at this time?
Okay, I make a motion to grant the petitioner Christopher Ilekis on behalf of 9561 West 171st Tinley Park LLC, doing business as Equity, a site plan and architectural approval to make site and facade changes on the existing former bank building to be converted to a multi-tenant commercial building with a Starbucks coffee drive-through at 17111 through 17119 LaGrange Road, formerly 9561 171st Street, in the B3 PUD Neighborhood Shopping Park Hills Town Center PUD zoning district. In accordance with the plan submitted and listed herein, subject to the following conditions. 1. Any changes in drive-through or parking demand from what was presented would require a new traffic drive-through analysis and prior approval to ensure the on-site drive-through stacking and parking is sufficient. And number 2, site plan approval is subject to final engineering plan review and approval.
Do I hear a second?
This is Commissioner Lusciuto. I second that motion.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Manny, seconded by Commissioner Lusciuto. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Commissioner Gaskell,
Yes.
Commissioner Vick,
Yes.
Commissioner Manny,
Yes.
Commissioner Lusciuto,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray.
Yes. Okay, the motion is carried. And my understanding, Paula, just for clarity, this ends here, right? This, you can file permits, is that correct, Dan?
Yep.
There's no other step, so,
Yep, with no zoning and nothing else zoning go to the board, they could get a permit tomorrow for this
Okay.
location.
excellent, just so the petitioner is clear on that.
It's just the same.
Yep. With that, we will move on to the second item on tonight's agenda, which is a public hearing to consider recommending that the village board grant Vequity LLC, the contract purchaser owner, a map amendment to rezone the subject properties from R1, single-family residential, to a B1, the neighborhood shopping zoning district. Additionally, the petitioner is requesting a special use for a planned unit development, PUD, with exceptions from the zoning ordinance on both the subject site and neighboring 7-Eleven site currently under construction. The request will permit a multi-tenant building with a Starbucks drive-through to be constructed at the properties located at 17120 to 17126 Harlem Avenue. Architect/site plan and final plat approval will also be considered at this meeting. May I have a motion to open the public hearing at this time?
This is Commissioner Gaskell. I moved open.
Okay, do I hear a second?
It's Commissioner Vick, a second.
Motion made by Commissioner Gaskell, seconded by Commissioner Vick. I will ask for a voice vote. Are there any opposed to this motion? Okay, hearing none, the motion is carried. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter will be sworn in before they speak after the staff's presentation. And I do want to just add that I did receive a certificate of publication in the newspaper for this public hearing. So Dan, with that, please proceed with your presentation.
Thanks, Chairman. Yeah, and this one's very similar in terms of the concept, the same developer here with a multi-tenant building with a Starbucks drive-through in it. This one obviously a little more substantial of a request because these were previously, this is going where there was previously single-family homes, and there's rezoning requests, as well as the overarching PUD request that will go over this development and the neighboring 7-Eleven development that's not only currently under construction, getting completed pretty quickly out there. So the existing site here is it's two interior lots on the western side of Harlem Avenue. And this is just south of the corner of 171st in Harlem, where that 7-Eleven's being developed and is currently under construction. These lots are zoned R1, single-family residential, and outlined there in the red. And then in the orange is where the 7-Eleven's being developed. And that 7-Eleven project was approved in 2020, and when they did that one, they demolished not only the home that was on the southernmost portion of that site. As part of that approval, they were working with the owner at the time that owned all 4 of those lots, and they demoed the 2 homes that were on this lot as well, just kind of out of goodwill, knowing they were kind of interested in moving forward, and when they demoed one, they could just demo all 3 at the same time. So they're back before you here today now with a contract on that property and to do a mixed-use, or not mixed-use, multi-tenant commercial building there, which is kind of Vequity's bread and butter. Outside of doing 7-Elevens, this is kind of what they do, are these kind of outlet strip center type buildings. This area of Harlem is unique in our village because this was originally developed in the 50s and 60s with single-family homes and developed with the subdivision that goes to the west. But that's back when Harlem was a 2-lane road and there wasn't much traffic out here, so obviously it's changed quite a bit. There's heavy traffic, there's a lot of commercial development here, and it's attractive to commercial tenants, not so attractive to residential uses now to get in and out of their sites. So the comprehensive plan does call this out as a commercial office use in the 2000 comprehensive plan. So even in 2000, they were thinking this will get converted. So this is gone it'll pretty much be done at this point, besides one single-family home that remains out there. And they've been converted to either be zoned B4 or B1, which are kind of the B1 being our lowest density traditional business zoning district. And the B4 zoning district is our office and service use district, so kind of our two lowest intensity business districts. And that's really there because of the single-family homes that still exist to the west there. So instead of B3 uses, which are usually a little more intensive, parking, noise, kind of external negative effects that can come from there in the B3 district. So they're looking here, it would be a 7,422 square foot new building, a little over 7,000 square feet in leasable space. This building would be Starbucks and then up to 3 other additional tenants, and again, could be 1, could be 3. Once they kind of get the approvals in Starbucks, that is usually when they start to generate real interest in signing other leases. So kind of once it's approved, then they'll gauge the interest out there. Starbucks would take that and the southernmost unit that's shown on this with the drive-through, and that would be 2,202 square feet of space there, and then that other 5,000, again, just leased to any use that would be permitted in the B1 district, as well as a few other uses they've added into the PUD that they feel don't create any external negative effects and that could be useful here in kind of a unique situation where it's B1, but it's a heavy commercial corridor. The site plan obviously includes the building. You get the counterclockwise drive-through rotation here, and some interconnection with the 7-Eleven site to the north. There's a number of exceptions here in terms of the lot size, because again, developed for residential and not commercial, so the lot size, the lot width are all exceptions that are covered by the PUD. And access to this site is primarily through that curb cut on Harlem Avenue. It'll be a right-in, right-out with kind of a raised pork chop there to make sure people are actually doing that right-in, right-out. But it has that cross connection to the 7-Eleven site that gives access, another access to Harlem, access onto 171st Street, and even cross access to the bank that's up next to 7-Eleven as well. So you kind of create that whole corner there where you can access it through the actual sites. Again, counterclockwise there with stacking. Callaway did a traffic analysis here and really worked with Starbucks. Starbucks has some pretty strict standards when they're moving into a site to make sure they're not going onto roadways, that they have enough stacking that works for them. Because if it doesn't, it hurts their business. And I think everyone's aware Starbucks is pretty busy. So that Callaway report was submitted and concluded that there's enough drive-through stacking here, and that any stacking would happen internal to the site. If it went beyond their kind of dedicated lane here, it wouldn't spill onto any roadways. So our traffic consultant also took a look at that and concluded the same thing, that the report was sufficient and correct. So there is a public sidewalk going in with this project, so we could include that got extended with the 7-Eleven site from the bank property, and then it'll bring it down here through this site. So adding sidewalks is what we always like to see and be pedestrian friendly. And I think this is good because then the neighboring community can kind of walk here safely, extend there. Just like the other site, there was the bike rack condition. I didn't call it out in here, but in the site plans that were sent to you guys, there is an added bike rack there by the Starbucks patio on the south side of this. So they did add the bike rack, which was a comment on this as well. Landscaping wise, our landscape code's a little tough to implement. Sometimes it really kind of pictures a new commercial development, I think sometimes. So when we get infill developments or auto-oriented uses like the gas stations, it really doesn't, it's tough to make it apply. But it does give us a guide to kind of say, here's the type of landscaping, and can you kind of meet the intent of it? So they really focus here on that perimeter landscaping, making sure there's trees and kind of a sufficient buffer surrounding the site. And really a big focus on that westernmost property line, which the focus has really been on. There's neighboring residential properties there, and we want to make sure that cars, sounds, anything that could come from this property are properly buffered. So they've done landscaping, trees, and with staff's recommendation, they agreed to move up to spruce or evergreen trees at that location. So it gives it a year-round buffer. And so it's not just summer and spring, fall and winter, it's buffering that as well. They'll be continuing the fence that runs all the way from the bank, and it runs through 7-Eleven now, and it'll continue here. So it's an 8-foot tall PVC fence that'll all look uniform across those developments, and then also there help block any light or anything that could affect the properties to the west of this. So that was really our focus, was to beef up that western property line as much as we could to help buffer anything with this transition from what was single-family homes to now what's a commercial user. And we did do a full landscape analysis like we always do. There are obviously some deficiencies in there, but again, they tried to do the best with what they could, and I think it's really, it ties in pretty well to what 7-Eleven did as well. So you're gonna have kind of a uniform planting scheme out there, uniform buffer widths, things like that. It'll really kind of blend together, which is the benefit of having a developer work on two developments right next to each other, kind of one right after the other. Architecturally, it's a fairly modern design here with a stone base around the base of the building, and then two color bricks on the rest of the building. So to kind of call out the Starbucks as their primary anchor tenant, and with the drive-through, it'll have a grayish black brick, which is up here if you guys want to see it. And then the rest of it will be more of a brown toned brick. Two darker tones, a little different because you normally, I guess, don't see two different tones in a smaller one, but I think they blend it together well here. They also offset that Starbucks facade slightly from the rest of the building. So, but again, mostly brick there with the building, and the parapets, and the building has really been designed pretty well there to screen any of the rooftop units that are up there. And they've wrapped, again, the windows wrap around the north elevation, and then on the south elevation is where you have the drive-through window. Signage-wise here, so this is kind of where the PUD, one of the places where the PUD comes into play outside of the cross-access. They want to have some shared signage because of the cross-access, because these are kind of going to be designed and constructed around the same time, be a similar development. The signage kind of works as well to where they want to share that. So you'll have the new sign for the Starbucks location. We'll have one for the 7-Eleven site and some access and vice versa. To add that onto the gas station sign, they did have a minor request for a 1-foot height exception there to allow an 11-foot sign instead of a 10-foot sign. So fairly minor, and it's really there to kind of make that sign work with all the information that they're trying to fit on a gas station. So. Parking wise, there is a minor exception here, but I think we've gone over it enough times with this commission that, you know, our zoning code isn't perfect, especially when it comes to parking. I don't think any towns is when it comes to parking minimums. And it's tough. It was in 1978 is when it was written. So obviously some things have changed since then. We really try and use it more as a guide here. And it really comes back to the petitioner who's gonna be the future owner. Who's gonna have to lease this property. And sometimes you do need to kind of monitor what the tenant's parking is. And those tenants also wanna know what kind of parking they have as well, so. They're gonna be, it's a minor request here, but I think they're confident they can make this work. Lighting wise, they're gonna meet all of our lighting standards, so they're at the property lines, especially to the west of this. There's no off-site light spillage, so that is, it goes down to 0-foot candles on the western property line. And we purposefully designed this to kind of have any lights that might be visible to the west, basically make sure they're buffered by sufficient landscaping. So we try and limit the amount of lights that are in the back on the west side of this property, and then limit, and anytime they are or could be visible, make sure there's a tree or something that can kind of help block any visibility of that light pole. From a use standpoint, there are a few uses that they're requesting that aren't typically allowed in that B1 zoning district, which is what they're requesting to rezone this to. So there's a couple that are in the B3 zoning district, automotive part sales, which doesn't include repairs or installation, just part sales, office supply and equipment sales, personal service establishments, which could be salon, massage, tax attorney, things like that are just kind of personal services. And then the one drive-through facility, which they're requesting here for Starbucks on the property. So they do have a list of other exceptions related to the zoning code, but are, again, related to kind of the unique nature of this lot. So outside of the rezoning, the PUD that they're requesting over these properties, then you also have and the site plan, they'll be doing the final plan of subdivision, which really just consolidates these lots, places utility easements on the property, and then cross-access between the properties as well. On that plan of subdivision are covered. So that's it for my staff report, and I'll put it back to you.
Okay, Dan, thank you. This time I'll ask any of the commission members if they have any comments or discussion on this item. I'll begin with Commissioner Gaskell. Any comments?
Just looks to be a good job.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Manny.
No comments.
Commissioner Vick.
No, I don't think really anything too crazy going on here with the development. I mean, it makes the changes that they have, like the parking changes, you know, especially due to the limited space, being that this was a residential property and stuff, you know, and it makes sense to change the zoning over to that as well. It's, you know, something that's been thought about for a while. So that'll all definitely make sense here. The landscape plan, I think, looks good, and having a year-round kind of buffer with evergreen type stuff, things like that would definitely, you know, help out the whole time, you know, with that. So I think what staff has done here and what developers have and stuff is it looks good. It'll be a good addition over there.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner Vick. Commissioner Lusciuto, any comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with Commissioner Vick and the staff with regards to, you know, that's such a busy intersection. It really isn't suited for residential anymore. It would be more suited for commercial purpose. And again, also with Commissioner Vick, with the landscaping and buffering the western boundary to protect the residential properties to the west. I do like the fact that they're extending the sidewalks on Harlem Avenue. to give pedestrians, ease of access to those properties, and along with the congestion, maybe with these additional Starbucks going up, it'll ease some of the congestion at 159th and Harlem. That's all my comments.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Lusciuto. I too echo some of the comments that Commissioner Vic Lusciuto said. That is a nice buffer on that west side, and I like the fact it's continued from the bank to the gas station with the perennial, the spruce and the evergreens. I think that's very good and protects the residents to the west there. I also don't have a problem with the menu board sign. I know that's something that we've discussed about before. There's similar signs at the existing McDonald's along Harlem, not too far away. And as staff has alluded to, there may be a time to revisit the code regarding these types of drive-through signs. So I'm totally okay with that. I too like the addition of the bike rack and the sidewalk, and that should invite some people that are non-vehicular customers. So you should still get the business, but maybe not the congestion, hopefully. And overall, the appearance looks good. I do appreciate you guys bringing the brick sample. A picture is good, but having the actual sample in hand really shows. I think the appearance of the building looks very stark, very good. So with that, I have no more comments. So at this time, I'll invite the petitioner back up. If you wish to present anything on the commission, I'll have to swear you in, sir, or if you. Just say, do you swear to affirm that the evidence that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. We're really, based on this very detailed presentation and all the work that we've done prior to the workshop, we're really here at this point to answer any questions from the public or from the board. We're happy to get this project going. I did the 7-Eleven, and with me is Ivan Nakoff, who's a principal from Vequity, who just endured 2 hours of traffic to get here. So
wow.
It's not easy. But from day one, this was always one project. We agreed with the staff to remove those two houses without even really being approved by this board. So this is kind of a relief too. But we felt that they should go, and staff recommended that we do that. So it's all worked out, and we're so happy we can just integrate Phase 2 with Phase 1 and make it work. So we're very excited to be there and hopefully get this one going very quickly.
Absolutely. And as staff said, at least it showed, because of the same owner, you see that consistency of the project. So
Yes.
it's shaping up very nice.
Thank you.
And Ivan, thanks for fighting all that pre-Memorial Day traffic to be here. It's probably, timing is everything, as I'm sure you're aware. At this time, I will ask if there's any public in attendance or online, or if anything was submitted previously for public comment today.
We didn't have anything submitted or anyone calling in. So.
Okay, so seeing that there's none, we'll move on. Commission, any more discussion on this item?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, if you didn't sign it.
Oh, yes. If you can sign your name down, sir. Yes. So with that, hearing no further questions or discussion, may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
This is Commissioner Lusciuto. I second that motion.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Manny, seconded by Commissioner Lusciuto. I will ask for a voice vote. Are there any opposed to this motion? Hearing none, the motion is carried. If there's no further comments, Dan, can you review the draft standards of approval on these requests?
Sure. I'll keep it as a summary. For the rezoning approval, it really relates to this being a more suitable space for a commercial use compared to a residential use that it's zoned now due to the traffic and its overall location of it. And how this relates to the neighboring zoning, which has also been commercial and transitioned to a commercial property. That basically having a orderly developed site is better than having a vacant site. And these structures that were there before the homes did remain vacant for an extended period. And this is obviously a benefit to the community that has planned for it, to have additional property tax, sales tax, employment, and overall just economic benefits to this development and the rezoning request that will allow for that. The standards for a PUD, which are kind of unique because you guys don't see these very often, but they're very similar to the special use conditions to make sure that the development really fits the community, that there's sufficient traffic, circulation, access, utilities, and that it really fits with a land use perspective with the village, which in the presentation, as we covered, this is really transitioning from that residential to the commercial uses out there. And that the street system has adequate capacity as well, based on the traffic reports that were submitted to handle this development. That this is going to be developed in a single phase, so we don't, with some of the PUDs request additional documents or the information on the phasing, so this will be developed in one phase and just completed within our typical code requirements. So that's a summary of those conditions, again, listed on the PowerPoint as well as on our staff report that will be part of the minutes as well.
Okay. Thanks for reviewing the draft standards of approval. So at this time, we have 4 motions for this item. Is there a motion regarding the rezoning?
This is Commissioner Vick. I make a motion to recommend that the village board grant the petitioner Christopher Alikis on behalf of 17118 South Harlem Tinley Park LLC, doing business as Vequity, a rezoning of the properties located at 17120 to 17126 Harlem Avenue from their existing R1 Single Family Residential Zoning District to the B1 Neighborhood Shopping Zoning District, and adopt the findings of fact submitted by the applicant and as proposed in the May 27th, 2021 staff report.
Do I hear a second?
Commissioner Gaskell, I second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Vick, seconded by Commissioner Gaskell. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Commissioner Manning,
Yes.
Commissioner Luskino,
Yes.
Commissioner Vick,
Yes.
Commissioner Gaskell,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray.
Yes. Motion is carried. May I have a second motion regarding the special use for a planned unit development?
This is Commissioner Lasciuto. I make a motion to recommend that the village board grant a special use permit to the petitioner, Christopher Alikis, on behalf of 17118 South Harlem Tinley Park LLC, doing business as Vequity, for a planned unit development for the properties located at 17100 Harlem Avenue and 17120 through 17126 Harlem Avenue in the B1 Neighborhood Shopping Zoning District in accordance with the plan submitted and listed herein, following the list of exceptions listed, and adopt findings of facts as proposed by and in the May 27, 2021 staff report.
Do I hear a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Lasciuto, seconded by Commissioner Manny. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Commissioner Manning,
Yes.
Commissioner Luskino,
Yes.
Commissioner Vick,
Yes.
Commissioner Gaskell,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray.
Yes. Okay, the motion is carried. At this time, may I have a third motion regarding the final plat?
This is Commissioner Gaskell. I make a motion to recommend the village board grant approval to the petitioner, Christopher Alikis, on behalf of 17118 South Harlem Avenue, Tinley Park, doing business as Vequity, final plat of subdivision approval for Southland's second consolidation in accordance with the final plat submitted and listed herein, subject to conditions that the final plat approval is subject to final engineering plan approval by the village engineer.
Do I hear a second?
This is Commissioner Vick. I second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Gaskell, seconded by Commissioner Vick. May I have a roll call, Secretary?
Commissioner Manning,
Yes.
Commissioner Mosquito,
Yes.
Commissioner Vick,
Yes.
Commissioner Gaskell,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray.
Yes. Okay, the motion is carried. Commission, may I have the last motion for this project regarding the site plan?
This is Commissioner Manny. I make a motion to grant the petition to Christopher Leakis on behalf of 17118 South Harlem Avenue, Harlem, Tinley Park LLC, doing business as Equity, site plan and architectural approval to construct a 7,422 square foot multi-tenant commercial building with a Starbucks drive-through at 17120 through 17126 Harlem Avenue in the B1 PUD Neighborhood Shopping Zoning District in accordance with the plan submitted and listed herein and subject to the following conditions. 1. The proposed fence shall be a minimum of 8 feet in height and match the existing fence on the adjacent bank and 7-Eleven properties in height, color, and style. Number 2, site plan approval is subject to the approval of the rezoning and the special use for a PUD